Let me tell you something, man, every single morning you drag yourself out of bed, hit that alarm like it's your enemy, and drive to a place that steals a piece of your soul one paycheck at a time. You see, there's a big difference between a job and a calling. A job is what you do to survive, but a calling is what you were born to do. One of them pays your bills, the other fulfills your soul. Too many people wake up every day chasing checks instead of chasing purpose. And then they wonder why they feel empty, even when their wallet's full. That's because money was never designed to fill a spiritual void. You can't buy peace, you can't swipe a card and purchase joy. And you can't deposit fulfillment in a bank account. You can be surrounded by success and still starving for meaning because deep down, you know you're living beneath what you were created for. There's something inside you that's been whispering for years. That small, quiet voice that says, there's more. You've heard it while you're sitting at your desk, staring out the window, wondering what your life could look like if you had the courage to follow it. You've heard it in the silence when you get home from work and you feel that hollowness that no promotion can fix. That's not just a feeling. That's your spirit reminding you that you're off track. God didn't put you on this earth just to exist inside someone else's dream. He gave you a gift, a purpose, a calling that's tailor-made for your life. And until you step into that, you'll keep feeling like something's missing, because something is. You were not created for average. You were not designed to wake up dreading the sound of your alarm. The same God that breathed life into you didn't make a mistake with your dreams. He planted them there for a reason. Every time you feel restless in your job, every time you feel that pull inside saying, this can't be it, that's divine dissatisfaction. That's heaven trying to wake you up. But what most people do is silence that feeling. They call it being realistic. They say things like, I got bills, or I'm too old, or it's too late. No, it's not. The graveyard is full of people who buried their calling because fear made them believe comfort was safer than faith. They spent their whole lives trying not to fail instead of trying to live. See, your job might give you security, but your calling will give you destiny. And destiny doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with faith. God's not looking for your arte summe. He's looking for your obedience. He's not impressed with your degree if it's being used to hide your doubt. He's not waiting on you to have everything figured out. He's waiting on you to take the first step, because when you move, he moves. When you act in faith, he aligns the path. You can't wait for clarity when you're called. Clarity comes after obedience. Too many people want God to show them the whole staircase before they take the first step. But faith doesn't work like that. He gives you one step at a time, because if he showed you the whole thing, you'd run back to what's comfortable. Let me tell you something. Your calling is not always convenient. It won't always make sense. It won't always pay well at first. But if you stay faithful, if you trust that what he gave you is enough, that small seed will grow into something that changes your life and the lives of others. You don't need everyone to believe in your dream. You just need to believe that God didn't make a mistake when he gave it to you. Because the same God that put that vision inside you already prepared the resources, the people, the opportunities. He's just waiting for you to step into position. Some of you are praying for God to bless what you're doing, but he's waiting for you to do what he already blessed. You're asking him to make you comfortable in a place he's trying to push you out of. You're asking him to give you peace in a space he's already left. The discomfort you're feeling isn't punishment. It's preparation. That uneasiness in your spirit, that boredom, that quiet frustration, it's heaven's way of saying, you're too big for this space. You've outgrown that environment, but you keep shrinking yourself to fit in it. You keep telling yourself it's just for now, but just for now has turned into 5, 10, 15 years. You've been loyal to something that's been draining your purpose. And I know it's hard. I know walking away from something stable feels like stepping into darkness. But that's where God does his best work, in the dark. When you can't see the next step, but you take it anyway, that's where faith becomes real. That's when you stop talking about trust and start living it. You can't discover your calling while clinging to comfort. You can't soar if you're chained to a desk that suffocates your gift. The eagle was born to fly, not to nest forever. You keep praying for wings, but God already gave them to you. You just refuse to open them because the ground feels safer. But what's safe is slowly killing your spirit. Every time you trade your passion for a paycheck, you teach your soul that survival is more important than purpose. Every time you silence your dream to fit someone else's plan, you tell God that his design wasn't good enough. And yet, he's still patient. He still waits for you to remember who you are, because your calling doesn't expire. Your gift doesn't disappear just because you ignored it. It's still there, waiting for you to stop surviving and start living. You may have forgotten your dream, but your dream hasn't forgotten you. You don't have to have it all figured out. Attempt. You just have to decide that you're done living beneath your calling. You don't have to quit everything today, but you do have to make a move. Start building what's inside you while you're working where you are. Start investing time into your purpose instead of wasting energy on your misery. God honors movement. He blesses effort. He doesn't bless laziness or fear or excuses. You might not see results immediately, but obedience always pays off, not in your timing, but in His. When you stop chasing jobs that only feed your wallet and start pursuing the work that feeds your soul, you'll realize that purpose attracts provision. You'll start meeting people who align with your dream, opportunities that match your calling, doors that only faith can open. That's not coincidence, that's divine alignment. Because when you walk in your calling, favor follows you. Doors open not because of who you know, but because of who you obey. Your job may have been the starting point, but it's not the destination. You were meant for more. You were created to create, to build, to serve, to shine, to bring something to this world that nobody else can. You were designed to operate in your gift, not just to endure a paycheck. And when you finally step into that calling, you'll look back and realize that everything you went through, every frustration, every sleepless night, every tear, it was all preparation. God was building your strength, shaping your faith, and preparing you for the place He already designed for you. Fear is the prison that keeps you employed but unfulfilled. It's not the lack of talent holding you back. It's the chains you built in your own mind. Fear whispers, what if you fail? Every time you think about chasing your dream, fear convinces you that you're not ready, not qualified, not enough. And you listen to it because fear sounds reasonable. It sounds like your parents' advice, like your coworkers' warnings, like your own logic trying to keep you safe. But safety is the enemy of destiny. You can't walk on water if you refuse to step out of the boat. God didn't design you to live small, but fear will always try to shrink your faith until you fit inside your comfort zone. See, fear doesn't always look like trembling. Sometimes it looks like being irresponsible. It looks like staying at a job that kills your spirit because it pays on time. It looks like calling your dream or hobby so you don't have to risk being judged. It looks like telling yourself, no's not the right time, year after year until your whole life becomes a waiting room for courage that never arrives. You tell yourself you're being patient, but really you're being paralyzed because fear will make you decorate your cage and call it stability. You'll convince yourself that your dream is unrealistic, that people like you don't get to live like that, and you'll stay locked behind excuses that sound smart but feel hollow. The truth is, if fear is a liar that sounds like reason, it shows you everything that could go wrong, but never tells you what could go right. It paints failure in vivid color, but keeps victory in black and white. It magnifies the risk and minimizes the reward. And if you keep feeding it, it grows until it becomes the voice of your entire life. But here's the thing, God doesn't give you a dream He doesn't intend to equip you for. You think you need confidence to start, but confidence comes after obedience. You're waiting to feel ready, but you won't feel ready until you move. Faith doesn't cancel fear, it walks right through it. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's deciding that your purpose matters more than your comfort. You've got to stop letting fear disguise itself as wisdom. Stop calling it being practical when really it's disbelief. God can't use comfort zones. He can only use courage. Every great blessing he ever gave anyone came after they took a step that scared them. Abraham left home without knowing where he was going. Moses walked into Pharaoh's court stuttering. David faced a giant with nothing but a stone. None of them had guarantees. They had faith, and faith is what fear tries hardest to kill. The devil doesn't need to destroy your dream if he can convince you never to chase it. Some of you are standing right next to your breakthrough, but fear keeps you stuck at the door. You keep asking for signs, but the sign is the discomfort you feel. That's heaven nudging you forward. You keep praying for courage, but courage is born when you act in spite of fear. You keep saying, God, show me the way, but he's waiting for you to take a step so he can light the next one. Fear will tell you to stay until it's safe, but nothing extraordinary ever happens in safety. Safety is where dreams suffocate. Faith is where they breathe. You've got to make a choice, either live scared and stay stuck, or trust that the one who gave you the vision will give you the victory. Fear says, what if I fall? But faith says, what if I fly? You've been walking around with wings folded, acting like you're just human when you've got divine potential in your DNA. You can't say you trust God and still let fear decide your moves. Because faith and fear both demand belief, one in failure, the other in favor. Which one you feed determines your future. The job you hate might feel like a safety net, but in truth, it's a spider web. The more you stay, the tighter it wraps around your purpose. Fear tells you you're secure, but you're really stuck, and the only way to break free is to step into what scares you. You've got to understand, the fear won't disappear before you move. You've got to move through it. That's when fear starts to shrink. That's when you discover that most of what you were scared of was an illusion. Fear builds mountains that don't exist until you believe in them. Every time you choose faith over fear, heaven celebrates. Every time you move in spite of trembling, God makes a way. You may not see it yet, but on the other side of fear is freedom. On the other side of risk is reward. On the other side of obedience is overflow. Fear will always exist, but so will grace, and grace will carry you where fear says you can't go. Your gift will always make room for you, but only if you use it. Every single person walking this earth was born with something special inside them. Something God handcrafted, unique, divine. That's your gift. The thing you do effortlessly, the thing that lights your soul up, the thing that when you do it, you feel alive. But most people never unwrap that gift. They leave it buried under fear, under doubt, under other people's opinions. They chase paychecks and approval instead of purpose and fulfillment. And then they wonder why life feels empty. Why they wake up every morning tired before the day even begins. It's because they're living outside their gift. Your gift is the key to your destiny. It's what you were created to bring into this world. You can't copy someone else's calling and expect peace. You can't chase somebody else's dream and expect joy. When you step into your gift, everything starts aligning, not instantly, but inevitably. Doors open that used to be locked. Opportunities show up that make no sense on paper. Favor follows you because God blesses authenticity, not imitation. He didn't design you to blend in. He designed you to stand out through what he placed in you. See, the problem is we confuse gifts with talents. A talent is something you can learn. A gift is something you're born with. You can polish a skill, but a gift comes from heaven. That's why when you operate in it, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like purpose. You might get tired, but you don't burn out because what fuels you is different. When you work in your gift, you're not chasing success. You're walking in alignment. You're not grinding for validation. You're growing for impact. There's a difference between chasing something and being called to it. When you're called, the pull never stops. You may not even realize your gift because it feels too easy. It's that thing you do naturally that other people struggle with. Maybe you can talk and people listen. Maybe you can make people laugh when they're broken. Maybe you have a way of solving problems that others can't see. Maybe you can take chaos and create beauty. Whatever it is, it's there for a reason, but it's your responsibility to develop it, to protect it, to multiply it. God doesn't give you a gift to sit on it. He gives it to you so you can serve. Your gift isn't just about you. It's about what he wants to do through you. Too many people bury their gifts because the world convinced them it doesn't pay enough, or it's not practical, or nobody will care. But that's not your business. Your business is obedience. God didn't ask you to make it make sense. He asked you to make it happen. You can't wait for applause before you start using what he gave you. You have to trust that your gift will draw what it needs. The right audience, the right opportunity, the right provision, they'll come when you move in faith. But your gift can't make room for you if you keep it locked in fear. It can't open doors if you never use it. Some of you are sitting on blessings disguised as abilities. You're gifted, but you've convinced yourself it's nothing special because it comes easy. That's exactly why it's special. What's easy for you is hard for others. And that's where your power is. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your originality. God gave you something nobody else can do the way you do it. You might not have the biggest platform or the loudest voice, but if you stay faithful to what he put in you, it will expand. That's what it means when the Bible says your gift will make room for you. It will create space where you once saw none. You don't have to force it. You don't have to beg. You don't have to manipulate. When you're walking in your gift, the doors will open that no man can shut. The right people will show up at the right time. The resources will align when the purpose is pure. That's divine order. But the moment you stop using your gift, life starts to lose meaning. Because when you ignore your gift, you disconnect from your purpose. And when you disconnect from your purpose, you start living in frustration, comparison, envy, all symptoms of a soul out of alignment. You have to understand your gift is not random. God didn't hand it out like a raffle prize. He put in you because he knew the world needed something only you could provide. When you use it, you honor him. When you hide it, you insult him. You're telling the Creator that his creation wasn't good enough. And yet, he still waits on you to believe in what he already confirmed. You're praying for direction, but he already gave it to you in your design. Look at what you're drawn to, what makes you come alive. That's your compass. And don't confuse small beginnings with insignificance. Every major calling starts in a small room. The gift might not take you global overnight, but if you stay faithful, it will take you further than fear ever will. The seed in your hand doesn't look like the tree it will become. But if you plant it, if you nurture it, if you refuse to quit when it's hard, that gift will grow into something that provides shade for others. Because your gift isn't just meant to bless you. It's meant to bless generations. Maybe you've been overlooked, underestimated, or ignored. Maybe people don't see what's in you yet. That's okay. They're not supposed to. They didn't plant it, so they can't recognize it. But the moment you start moving in your gift, the world will have no choice but to take notice. Because when you operate in divine purpose, your presence speaks louder than any title. You won't have to announce yourself. Your results will do the talking. Attempt. You won't have to chase opportunities. They'll chase you because your gift made the space for them to find you. The greatest tragedy isn't dying, it's dying full of ideas you never acted on, full of songs you never sang, full of books you never wrote, full of inventions you never built, full of potential you never unleashed. That's what happens when you ignore your gift. But it's not too late. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you still have time to use what he gave you. You still have time to step into your assignment. You still have time to let your gift do what it was born to do, make room for you. Comfort is the enemy of purpose. It feels good. It looks safe. It sounds wise, but it's a silent killer. Comfort will cradle you, calm you, and then quietly kill your potential. It will convince you that you're fine when deep down you know you're unfulfilled. Comfort says, you've got it good enough. Comfort says, don't take that risk. Comfort says, stay where it's safe. But purpose never grows in safety. Purpose grows in the soil of struggle, in the heat of discomfort, in the stretch of uncertainty. Every time you choose comfort over calling, you step away from destiny. You start trading your divine assignment for temporary ease. And what's crazy is, the longer you stay comfortable, the more uncomfortable your soul becomes. See, comfort doesn't show up in one day. It creeps in quietly. It shows up as routine, as predictability, as I'm just being responsible. It feels right because everybody else is doing it. You start building walls around your life to protect yourself from pain, but those same walls start blocking your purpose. You can't experience growth if you're unwilling to experience discomfort. Every single time God wants to elevate you, he'll shake your comfort zone. He'll make that place that once felt easy start feeling heavy. That job that once felt secure starts draining you. Those people you used to fit in with start feeling distant. That's not rejection. That's redirection. He's trying to pull you out of comfort and into calling. You have to understand something: comfort and calling can't coexist. You can't serve both. One asks you to stay, the other asks you to step. One feeds your fear, the other feeds your faith. One says, I've arrived, the other says, I'm just getting started. When you get too comfortable, you stop reaching. You stop praying the same. You stop believing for more. You start settling for what's available instead of pursuing what's possible. And that's dangerous because comfort will always sell you short. It will give you the illusion of peace while robbing you of purpose. Every great person you've ever admired had to leave comfort behind. Abraham had to leave his home. Joseph had to leave the prison before the palace. David had to step out of the field to face Goliath. None of them were qualified by comfort. They were qualified by courage. God doesn't call the comfortable. He calls the willing. And if you're waiting until it feels safe to move, you'll wait your whole life. Because purpose will always require you to take a step before you see the path. You don't get clarity sitting still. You get clarity moving forward. Attempt. Comfort is where dreams go to sleep. You tell yourself you're resting, but you're really retreating. You say you're waiting for the right time, but you're just afraid to start. You say you're being patient, but patience without progress is just procrastination wearing a halo. You can't ask God to use you and then refuse to be uncomfortable. The two don't mix. Every miracle you've read about, every breakthrough, every transformation, it all started with discomfort. The widow had to pour her last bit of oil. Peter had to step out of the boat. Daniel had to walk into the lion's den. They didn't see deliverance until they embraced discomfort. And here's what's wild. The very thing you're afraid to lose by stepping out of your comfort zone is usually the thing holding you back from receiving more. You think you're protecting your stability, but you're actually limiting your growth. You think you're saving time, but you're wasting years. You think you're preserving peace, but you're stifling purpose. The truth is, God can't bless what you refuse to move on. He can't grow what you refuse to plant. He can't stretch what you keep stuck. Sometimes God will let the discomfort rise so high that you have no choice but to move. He'll dry up the job, close the door, remove the people, shake the ground beneath your feet, not because he's punishing you, but because he loves you too much to let you rot in comfort. He knows you'll never reach the next level while clinging to the last one. You can't carry yesterday's security into tomorrow's destiny. You've got to let go. You've got to trust that the same God who provided for you, there will provide for you here. And when you finally move, something powerful happens. You start realizing that everything you thought you couldn't handle was just fear talking. You start seeing that what felt like loss was really liberation. You start feeling alive again. That's the thing about purpose. It wakes your spirit up. It reignites that fire you thought had burned out. You start dreaming again, believing again, living again. Because purpose doesn't live in comfort, it lives in courage. Every blessing in your life is waiting on the other side of discomfort. Every breakthrough, every level of faith, every ounce of growth, it's all hiding behind the walls of your comfort zone. And the moment you push through that wall, you'll realize it was paper thin all along. The thing that felt impossible was only intimidating because you never tried. Comfort makes cowards out of champions, but faith turns fear into fire. You were never meant to live small. You were meant to move mountains. But you can't move a mountain if you won't even leave your seat. There's greatness in you that comfort will never reveal. There's a version of you waiting to emerge, stronger, wiser, freer. But it can only appear when you decide that staying safe is no longer worth staying stuck. When you decide that the pain of remaining the same finally outweighs the fear of change. when you stop asking for an easy path and start asking for a purpose-driven one. God doesn't promise easy. He promises extraordinary, but extraordinary only comes to those willing to leave ordinary behind. And ordinary is just another word for comfortable. Faith requires movement, not management. You can't manage a miracle. You can't schedule destiny. You can't plan purpose into a calendar and expect God to fit inside your logic. Faith doesn't work like that. Faith is wild. Faith is unpredictable. Faith is uncomfortable. It asks you to walk when you can't see the road, to believe when you can't see the result, to speak life when everything around you looks dead. That's what separates dreamers from doers. One waits for conditions, the other moves despite them. God never said, sit still until it makes sense. He said, walk by faith, not by sight. And that word, walk, means movement. Faith moves. See, too many people try to manage faith. They want to control it, analyze it, keep it safe. They pray bold but act small. They say, God, use me. But then set terms and conditions. They want to trust him, but only if he gives a tracking number on the blessing. That's not faith. That's negotiation. Faith doesn't bargain, it believes. Faith doesn't calculate, it commits. You can't experience divine results with human control. God will always ask you to move before you're ready because movement activates miracles. He's not waiting for you to have all the answers. He's waiting for you to take action. Faith is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it weakens. If all you do is talk about it, pray about it, think about it, but never move, you're managing it instead of living it. The moment you take a step, even if it's shaky, heaven responds. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. The Red Sea didn't part until Moses stretched his hand. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until they marched. The man with the withered hand wasn't healed until he moved it. Movement releases the miracle. Every single time someone in the Bible experienced breakthrough, it followed an act of obedience that didn't make sense at first. That's faith, doing what makes no sense to man but complete sense to God. But here's the problem. We love control. We want to manage outcomes because we fear loss. We want to see the blueprint before we build. But faith doesn't give blueprints, it gives breadcrumbs. You take one step and then another and suddenly you realize you've been walking in purpose all along. Faith is trusting the destination even when the directions don't make sense. When you start moving, things begin aligning that you could have never planned. People cross your path that were never on your radar. Opportunities open that logic could have never arranged. Tempt. That's the beauty of faith. It produces results far beyond what management ever could. Faith doesn't ask for your comfort. It asks for your commitment. It's not about playing it safe. It's about standing on a promise when everything around you shakes. God's not impressed with your plans. Attempt. He's moved by your trust. You keep waiting for the perfect time, but faith says, now, you keep waiting for a sign, but faith says, attempt, go. You keep asking for confirmation, but faith says you already know because deep down that idea that won't leave you, that dream that keeps you awake, attempt, that pull you can't explain. That's your sign. That's the Spirit stirring you to move. The truth is faith without movement becomes frustration. You'll pray and wonder why nothing changes. But faith was never meant to sit still. It's not enough to believe in your heart. You've got to move your feet. You can't keep asking God to bless your plan when he's waiting on you to walk into his. The moment you move, provision starts chasing you. Blessings that were held up start flowing. Doors that were closed start unlocking. It's not because God suddenly decided to bless you. It's because you finally decided to move. And don't think movement always means quitting your job or packing your bags. Sometimes it means shifting your mindset, taking that class, making that call, writing that idea down, stepping into a new routine. Faith moves in steps, not leaps. Every small act of obedience carries power. God doesn't measure the size of the step. He measures the size of your trust. When he sees you move, even in fear, he moves heaven on your behalf. That's why faith requires movement, because movement is proof of belief. When you sit still too long, fear starts whispering. Doubt grows roots. Excuses multiply. The longer you wait, the heavier the weight of inaction becomes. But once you move, even a little, that weight breaks. Faith creates momentum. The door you've been staring at for years might have been unlocked the whole time. It just needed you to turn the handle. And that handle is movement. You've been praying for change, but change is waiting on your motion. God has the plan, but he won't move your feet. That's your part. Faith doesn't make the journey easy, but it makes it possible. It won't always look logical, but it will always be fruitful. When you move, you activate something in the spiritual realm that planning can't touch. God honors motion because motion honors trust. You're telling him, I don't need to know how, I just need to know who. That's the kind of faith that shakes heaven and terrifies hell. That's the kind of faith that opens red seas, tears down walls, and turns impossibilities into testimonies. So stop trying to manage what you're meant to move in. Stop overthinking what you're called to obey. Faith is not a business strategy, it's a battle cry. It's not a spreadsheet, it's a step. Every single time you move, even if you don't see the outcome, God sees your obedience. And obedience is the currency of miracles. You don't have to understand it, you just have to move. Because when you move, mountains move. When you move, fear loses power. When you move, heaven notices. Faith without movement is just belief. Faith with movement is transformation. God can't bless the plan you never start. You can pray about it, talk about it, dream about it, even post about it. But until you move, nothing changes. God's blessing flows through action, not imagination. You keep asking for doors to open, but God is saying, turn the handle. You keep praying for increase, but he's saying, use what I already gave you. Too many people are waiting for perfect timing, waiting for confirmation, waiting for everything to make sense before they start. But faith doesn't work that way. Faith says, start while you're scared. Faith says, move while it's messy. Faith says, go even when you don't see the whole road. Because the miracle isn't in the plan, it's in the move. God won't bless procrastination disguised as patience. You say you're waiting on him, but half the time he's waiting on you. He already put the dream in your heart, the idea in your mind, the vision in your spirit. Attempt. But he's not going to finish what you refuse to begin. You can't ask him to bless your next chapter while you keep rewriting the last one. You've got to pick up the pen and start writing. You've got to stop talking about someday like it's a date on the calendar. Someday isn't a day. It's a decision. And every day you delay, doubt grows deeper roots. Every day you wait, your faith gets a little quieter. You're not missing the opportunity. The opportunity is missing you because you won't move. See, God's not in the business of blessing intentions. He blesses execution. You can have the most beautiful plan in your mind, but if it never leaves your head, it's just potential with no power. Potential means nothing without pursuit. The dream you never chase becomes the burden you never escape. You start to resent your own ideas because they remind you of the courage you never used. That's why so many people feel stuck. Not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack motion. You can't steer a parked car. You've got to start rolling before the direction gets clear. And don't think small beginnings don't matter. God honors the start, no matter how small it looks. You might think it's insignificant, but obedience is never insignificant. Every great story in the Bible started with a step that looked too small to matter. Moses picked up a stick. David picked up a stone. The widow poured out oil. A boy gave his lunch. None of those moments looked like miracles, but they became miracles because someone decided to start. The power isn't in the size of your start. It's in the faith behind it. God can multiply small, but he can't bless nothing. You've got to give him something to work with. You say, but what if I fail? Let me tell you, failure isn't the opposite of blessing. It's the classroom of faith. Every failure teaches you something obedience can't. God doesn't waste failure. He uses it to shape you, strengthen you, prepare you. Attempt. The only real failure is never starting, because the blessing doesn't come to those who wait for perfection. It comes to those who trust through imperfection. You might stumble, you might fall, but if you stay in motion, grace will catch you. The only people who never fall are the ones who never move. Some of you keep saying, when God opens the door, I'll go. But the truth is, he already did. You're just too afraid to walk through it. You keep waiting for him to make it obvious, But sometimes the open door doesn't glow. Sometimes it just looks like hard work. The opportunity doesn't always look divine. Sometimes it looks difficult. But if you trust him enough to start, he'll show you the rest on the way. That's how God works. Revelation follows movement. He doesn't show you the full picture until you prove you're willing to step into the frame. Don't let analysis become your anesthesia. You keep overthinking, overplanning, overchecking. And all that overthinking is just fear dressed in logic. You don't need another sign, you need a step. You don't need another plan. You need progress. You don't need every answer, you need obedience. Because God can't bless potential. He blesses production. You can't keep asking him to guide your steps if you refuse to take any. The moment you move, even in uncertainty, heaven begins to arrange everything around your obedience. That's when you start seeing divine timing, divine connections, divine opportunities, not because you waited, but because you walked. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for participation. He can fix mistakes, but he can't fix stagnation. He can redirect motion, but he can't steer stillness. You might think you're protecting yourself from failure, attempt, but what you're really doing is protecting yourself from growth. You can't grow if you don't go. You can't be blessed if you won't begin. You don't need to know how it will happen. You just need to trust who sent you to do it. Because when God gives you an assignment, he already equipped you for completion. You just have to start. And here's the truth. The blessing isn't waiting at the finish line. It's hidden in the first step. The courage to begin, the decision to trust, the willingness to act. That's where heaven meets earth. God multiplies movement, not hesitation. He doesn't bless the one who's ready. He blesses the one who's willing. Every blessing you're praying for is sitting on the other side of your first move. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start creating it. God can turn a small beginning into a mighty breakthrough, but he can't bless the plan you never start.